Fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes your projects hassle-free. Forget something you need? Visit HomeDepot.com or the Home Depot app for free delivery on millions of products, including same-day and next-day options. Get delivery at the speed you need, only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability.
We have been told that we are the big boys in town.
Well, he's into it. I'm talking about he is like lit.
He's about to start preaching.
Let everybody say amen.
I can get chills a little bit thinking about what these two guys can do.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. Your guys are back here. That's DJ Shockley, Dave Archer. I'm Derek Rackley here to recap, unfortunately, a Falcons 20-10 loss on the road to the San Francisco 49ers. And gentlemen, we talked about this last week, previewing the game. It was another one of those, I hate to use the word monumental, right? But another opportunity on prime time to kind of put a stamp on the growth of the organization, the offense, the defense, special teams, so on and so forth in a prime time setting. And they weren't able to get it done. Arch, I want to start with you because you were our resident on site out there covering the game on the radio. And for the folks that maybe didn't get a chance to watch the entire game, they weren't able to see it, listen to it, kind of give us your 30,000-foot view of what you saw in the game and kind of where things went wrong for Atlanta.
Yeah, I thought that, we expected a close football game. The 49ers are a good football team. So you expected a close, hard-fought game, which is what it played out to be. So in those kind of games, you got to win moments of the games. And I thought that Atlanta, when they had opportunities and moments, didn't get it done. Second drive of the game, you go 19 plays. You got to settle for a field goal.
Yeah.
You can't – at some point, and I know we'll get to this maybe in this podcast, is that where does Atlanta need to prove the most? Red zone, to me, you're moving the ball 20-20. You're one of 5 teams in the National Football League that are in the top 10 in both passing the football and running the football. Okay, you're 7th, I think 6th or 7th overall in total offense. You're moving the football, but you're 28th in scoring. Somehow you got to finish stuff. So to me, those were the moments. The moment at the end of the half where Michael makes a mistake and throws the ball away in the pocket, gets the grounding call inside 10 seconds, get a 10-second runoff, you'll lose the opportunity to try a field goal there. The 4th and 1 late in the football. So, again, there were moments of the game that the Niners came out on top and you didn't. And when you're in close games against a good football team, if you don't win those moments, and they do, generally you lose the football game.
Yeah, I mean, we always you said moments. We always talk about being situationally great football teams, right? Yeah. And a lot of times the most common situations are third down, first down, red zone, backed up, so on and so forth. But to your point, it's also making the right decisions in critical moments, right? At the end of the half when getting points may seem like a little, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a lot, right? Converting on 4th down, converting on 3rd down. All those moments they stack on top of each other to give you confidence when you get into the red zone to punch the football into the end zone. And DJ, we talk so much about some of the changes defensively, right? Fred Warner being out, not having Bosa in the lineup. And was that going to create some advantages when you don't have great players out there? But I do remember us talking about Robert Saleh being a very respected defensive coordinator, and he put together a great game plan to attack these Falcons, and they were able to hold Bijan Robinson under 100 total yards. What else did you see that kind of stuck out as moments that were missed?
I think people forget that obviously when you have success the week before, coaches are going to go back, they're going to watch that film and say, okay, they got beat by X, Y, and Z. The previous game versus the Bills, Bijan went crazy. Drake went crazy. You said, okay, we come into this ball game. We allow those 2 guys to beat us. Guess what? We're probably not doing our job as coaches. So I think coming to that ball game, they had a plan for both those guys. For me, though, my eyes, especially for this ball game, it went to the trenches. I thought that we weren't as physical. I thought that they kind of own the game up front a little bit, especially in the run game. Obviously, you look up and, we ran the ball really well the week before. So you come in and you say, okay, how do we, stop them running the football? And I thought they did a really good job on early down situations of like run blitzes or plugging gaps and, playing on the other side of the line of scrimmage or being the more physical ones at that point in time. And I think that was a big hindrance on us being able to run the football. And then you try some other things. You try to screen game. You try to, get them out, on the perimeter. You try to, we see putting Bijan outside and trying to, throw it to him on slants and stuff like that. We had Kyle out there a couple times. He had a big-time catch on third down. So I think you try to go outside of some of the things that, really are what your staples are because they did a really good job of it. And when they owned the line of scrimmage for a majority of this ball game, not saying the entire ball game, but there were moments in the game where they owned the line of scrimmage, and then you look up and it's 3rd and 7, it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and then they can pin their ears and come back. Or they can play zone. They can keep their eyes on Bijan. They can, put a guy over top of Drake. So I thought there were moments, like Art just mentioned, in the game where – up front, you were tested more than I think probably the last few ball games, especially when it comes to changing the line of scrimmage, and they did that, especially in their run game, and that was a big part of what we like to do is obviously being able to run the football.
I thought that, to your point about Robert Saleh and his prowess as a defensive coordinator, we kind of remember him as the head figurehead in New York, and that Brick had been running the defense. Mm-hmm. Well, he cut his teeth on playing on a defensive coordinator with the 49ers. Yep. I thought what he did, guys, was he knew Fred Warner wasn't going to play. And you've got a guy that's, 7 consecutive seasons of 120 tackles or more, the leader of that defense. He simplified the system defensively, and he said, go get the football. If Bijan touches the ball, go get him. I don't want you reading anything. Tatum Bethune, who had not played hardly at all linebacker-wise, he had 10 tackles in the game. He was coming downhill. D. Winters, who hadn't played a ton at linebacker, young linebacker out of TCU, go get the football. Yeah. And so I thought his simplification, you mentioned run dog. They run dogged Atlanta a great deal to try to put Atlanta in 2nd and 10, 3rd and 9 situations, did a great job with it.
We had a little bit of fun on the pregame show on Sunday night as we were coming on the heels of Robinson's great performance against the Bills, right? And we were talking about him kind of being already, like, where would you put him on the Mount Rushmore of other great running backs that are and I put the caveat on it, that are similar to his style, right? In elusiveness and ability to catch the ball in the backfield, okay? And I kind of threw out some names of Barry Sanders because he was like the king of making people miss, okay? I put Marshall Faulk because he was the guy that, to me, showed how running backs catch the ball out of the backfield.
Absolutely.
Also put LaDainian Tomlinson in there because I watched him play, and the guy was electric in both phases of the game. And then my fourth one, and here's where I'm going with this point, my fourth one was Christian McCaffrey because – I think people quickly want to forget he had a couple injuries that cut short seasons and everything. They forget like what he's been able to do in this league and how good he is. Couple that, Arch, and I'm going to come to you with this. My number one key to the game, okay, was McCaffrey can't dominate. Mm-hmm. It was 3 words, okay? Because we were talking, and even the Sunday Night Football crew made so much about, right? Should have used that for podcasts, right? Sunday Night Football crew was talking so much about the connection between Robinson and McCaffrey working out in the offseason, similar styles, so on and so forth, right? And then you look up, because I said, as long as McCaffrey had, like, he's so good, he's going to get his. Like, if he finishes the game with 100 yards and a touchdown, you can live with that, okay? But here's the numbers. Robinson, 20 touches, 92 yards, touchdown, okay? McCaffrey, 31 touches, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. Arch, to me, that was a problem, okay?
Let me show you. Here's my keys I wrote down before the game.
Limit the McCaffrey factor.
Yeah, and you, like you said, you're not going to stop Christian McCaffrey. They're going to give him a number of opportunities to touch the football in a myriad of ways, but limit what he can do in the game. He dominated the game. Yeah. And give, as Shock said, give their offensive line a ton of credit. At some point, McCaffrey's coming. Go stop him. Yeah. And Atlanta had no answers. So give their interior offensive line a ton of credit because a lot of this was done interior. There wasn't a lot of perimeter stuff. They got a couple perimeter plays. They got him out of the backfield. I thought the Divine Diablo injury affected them in the dump pass game. I think he have 7 receptions a game for 70 yards or something like that. I thought that affected Atlanta a great deal in when they wanted to get him the ball in space and let him catch the football. So I couldn't agree with you more when you start talking about and we're going to see a guy this weekend. I know we're going to get to the Dolphins and Devon Achane that is a very similar player.
100%.
Great speed, can run. As you begin to think about running backs like Bijan Robinson, I mean, we saw what Jahmyr Gibbs did on Monday night, right? I mean, just similar player, right? Devon Achane is a very similar player. So we're starting to see more guys like that, like a Christian McCaffrey type player. But that was the number one concern.
And you think about it around the league, a lot of people are looking for guys. For a long time, it was like, all right, can we get a quarterback that's mobile, that can move around, and that hurts you? That's still a big trend right now. Now, think about a guy in our division who we've talked about a lot throughout over the years in Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
A lot of people looking for guys who can be really versatile, and that's what we're seeing, guys who can do that, who can hurt you, and not just say, all right, let's turn around and hand it to a guy, and he can get you 4, 5, 6 yards. Now you got guys who can do that, plus this, plus that, and that makes it even more dangerous to have to cover a guy like that.
Well, and I would say even like look at a team like the Chiefs, right? And Isaiah Pacheco is nowhere near the true running back that some of these guys are. But what does he do? He is a matchup nightmare. He's so quick coming out of the backfield, and that's the reason why certain pieces fit in certain offenses, even if they weren't a dominant college player. Yeah. But to your point, like the Kamaras, the McCaffreys, the Robinsons of the world, they continue to find their places on different NFL teams. Guys, I always go back to this because I have the show with 2 quarterbacks on it, and Shock, I'm going to go with you. Let's talk a little bit about Michael Penix, because 3 losses this year. In 2 of the 3 games, he's been 55% or less in his completion rate. What are you seeing from the quarterback, or maybe it's something else, to where they can get more consistency and get more out of Michael from the quarterback position?
The tough part about this is, obviously, it was his 9th start. He's starting to see things every week that's going to be a little bit different. And I think what people fail to realize is defenses, teams, they're going to do a lot of different things to show you stuff and say, okay, what can this guy handle? What is he really good at? What are some of the things that makes him really click and really go? So I think going into his 9th start, he's done some good. He done some things to work on, but there's also things around him, and I think that can be better. We talked about the run game being a big part of it, having guys who can change the line of scrimmage. But for Penix, I think it just comes down to him having the reps in these games. And I remember going back to my rookie or second year, Arch, you could probably do the same thing. Stuff happens so fast, and things are moving. And you talk about coverages that are going to change every week, looks you're going to see that's going to be different. You come into this ball game playing more man coverage, guys got to win on the outside, trusting it. He's still learning how to play in this National Football League and learning the things that he can get away with and learn some of the things that can help him. It's tough to say, all right, this guy should be doing this X, Y, and Z right now. Because obviously you look around the league, you say, okay, here are the guys who played really well to start their careers as rookies or second-year guys. And we're seeing a bunch of those second-year guys right now around the league in that same draft class starting to take a next step. So you're like, all right, can Mike do that? And we've seen him do that in a couple select ball games. So I think it just comes down to him playing more, seeing things a little bit more, because teams are going to come in and say, all right, we're going to play a certain coverage, certain defense, and we're going to bring certain blitzes that you haven't seen. And now he's learning in-game how to deal with all this stuff. So I think it's just going to take a little bit more time. And people want it right now. I understand that. But in this league, those dudes over there are super smart. Those dudes are super good. They're athletic. They're going to get their due as well. But you got to find ways to give him some easy outs too as well.
Arch, I'm going to ask you this question, and I want to see how you come back with this, because I always struggle, and I've said this many a times on our podcast before, of what I would call is making excuses. Like how long can you make excuses, rationalize, justify? Okay, and I'm going to give you 2 examples, okay? Yeah. C.J. Stroud's in his 3rd year. He's having not a very good year. But you go back to his rookie year, and he was fantastic, his rookie year. When you speak about rookie quarterbacks, okay? So that kind of dispels the rumor about rookies coming in and having some success, although we've seen many a times where rookies come in and they struggle. I'm going to talk about another quarterback in Drake May, who did get experience last year as a rookie, as a starter, came in the same draft class as Michael Penix, but he's got 12 touchdown passes this year, and the Patriots have a 5-2 record, and I think a lot of people would not have thought New England would be where they are right now. So my answer to you is, or my question to you, Arch, is, do we end up giving him so much rope because he's learning along the way, or with a first-round pick, are you expecting more?
I think it's both. I think it's both, right? I mean, you have to expect more because he's your first-round draft pick. Yeah. He's supposed to be the next guy, you know. And you think about the guys down through the years that have played quarterback that were drafted similar to as high as he. Steve Bartkowski became arguably one of the franchise's best players. Matt Ryan, who probably is the best player. Michael Vick, who was a guy that changed the dynamic of playing quarterback in the National Football League, not just here in Atlanta. And the expectation, so you've got guys that are on that wall, the pitchers on that, that's what you're supposed to be like. Now, how quickly did those guys get to that moment? You can go down through, look, what did Josh Allen do in his first 16 games of his career? Then you start comparing him to Jaden Daniels last year. Jaden had a really good season. Yep. You know, you go back and look at John Elway or Joe Montana, some of the venerable ones that have played in this game. You're going to get mixed pieces where guys played really well early, maybe a couple of games, and then had a drop-off. That's part of what Ross Schock was talking about seeing all the different things that you're going to get thrown at you. So I think that as far as you start talking about giving him room you got to be patient. You got to be patient with the guy. Now, I know the public's not going to be patient, but I think the organization will, that he's going to learn some things. You know, for instance, the play that probably is the most glaring mistake that Mike made in this last game was probably the last play of the half we've discussed, where at Washington, he's probably bounces out of the pocket, gets beyond the tackle box and throws it away. It's nothing. But here in the National Football League, they're not going to let you get away with that. You know, and so you got a good rusher, gets upfield, takes that away, and now he still knows, I got to get rid of the ball. I got to get it out. So his mind's thinking, I can't take a sack. Well, he's not looking at the clock. He didn't realize it's under 10 seconds. Right. So those are those moments. We talked about moments right off the start that he's continuing to learn. Schock talked about that as well. There's going to be things that he just hasn't experienced that sometimes you got to hit in the face before you learn from those mistakes.
It's a great. I want to come back to you guys because you guys played the position, right? And Raheem Morris and everybody has talked about, in order to have success at the National Football League level as a quarterback, you have to be an elite processor. But to me, Arch, what you're talking about, as I think about this, and again, the average fan doesn't think about how quickly this stuff happens for you guys, right? And it's a different era where coaches are able to say a little bit more in the headset with the two-way or the single-way communication, if you will. So do you guys think about that in the situation? Like, I have to be aware of where the play clock is because of a potential runoff and grounding? Like, can you get that far into your thought process before each and every snap? I'll start with you, Schock, to think about at the end of the half, yes, I got to get rid of the football. I can't ground it, but if I do get rid of it, it's got to be with 10 seconds or more on the clock. Can you think that far ahead?
Absolutely.
Well, and you got to what was the play? Where was the play clock? Was it like 21 seconds or was it 17 seconds or something like that? So how long you have to absorb how long the play's going? Yeah, that's a lot in my opinion. I think you have it in your mind that you can't ground the ball from the pocket,
right?
But
knowing where the clock is.
Yeah, but that's the part that's hard. Like, you know you can't do it, but you don't think when the ball snapped at 17, 18 seconds that, okay, I'm dropping back 3-4 yards. This is taking 6-7 seconds. There's no way you think about that.
Because you just called the play. You're processing the play like you're talking about. Right. Where are my guys? Where's my shot now? Okay, now where's the safe throwaway and all this kind of? Oh yeah, the clock is at 9 seconds.
No chance of that.
That's a really difficult one. And then you talked about the communique in the helmet. What is Zach telling him in the helmet? A lot of times, Schock, I remember being a piece of this when they first developed the sound in the helmet where you'd get a reminder. Mm-hmm. And it might be a red zone blitz reminder. It might be, you got the play call. That eats up some of the time. Yep. And then you get, don't forget the play clock, or don't forget
tip.
Yeah, I mean,
one timeout.
There's a lot
like that,
you don't want. And again, we're talking about a guy that's in his 9th game. So how much do you want to put on his plate? Yeah. So I just think this was a learning experience for him. I don't think Michael will ever do this again.
And the other part about it is all the things that Arch just mentioned. There's also the first thing you thought about in those situations is you can't take a sack.
Yeah.
That'll kill you every single time.
That's one of the first things you're taught when you get down there.
First thing you're taught, you can't take a sack. We're in position for a field goal. Let's not do anything to hurt ourselves. Mm-hmm. So in your brain, you're like, here comes this 300-pound dude trying to take my head off. Don't take a sack. Don't take a sack. Get rid of the football.
Yeah.
That's what you're thinking about. And in your brain, I'm saving my team. I'm doing what's right in that moment. You're not thinking about it's, under 10 seconds and it happens. Like, that obviously you can't have that in the game. But in that moment, it's all about the things that you learn from day one of getting rid of the football to give yourself a chance to kick a field goal.
Well, and then if this is the other piece of it, the coordinator now has to think for the quarterback some as well. Mm-hmm. You got to build in maybe that outlet for him that you might not in year 4 or year 3. I know he's good.
Yeah, the quarterback's got it.
But here in game 9 of his career, maybe I need to build in a guy in the flat that he can airmail it over his head. But it still looks like he's throwing it in his direction. I don't, that's a tough one to think about as well.
Absolutely. Well, as we talked a little bit about Penix, 21 of 38, he was 55%, 241 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Somewhat concerning to me, fellas. 5 touchdown passes this year, 3 interceptions. 5 touchdowns, I think, is the only Cam Ward and Justin Fields as everyday starters, okay, have less touchdown passes than Michael Penix. It's an area where this offense has to improve, and here's what we know. After the Carolina game, he took a lot of responsibility on his shoulders, and the next 2 games he played much better. Yeah. So you wonder does he take the same responsibility, and does he come back a much better quarterback because of that and because of all the things that he's learning with each and every start with all the reps that he's seeing. So we'll see if Michael ends. Go ahead.
What's interesting about that, Rack, and it's a really good point, how much is he absorbing? And I know you and I are looking at it and saying, I see things that he's doing every week that are better than the week before. Let's just go back to the Buffalo game. Okay, you're driving for that field goal. It's going to probably seal it for you. You'd like to score a touchdown, call a pass play late in the football game. Drake's running a slant route from the slot left. He eyeballs him. Shaq Thompson jumps it, should have picked it off.
Yes.
Okay?
Yep.
Didn't pick it off. He missed it, got away with it. We kicked the field goal, win the football game. This very same scenario line, he's got Pitts in the slot left. Pitts runs that slant route against the similar coverage. They got a backer sitting in the middle. What's Penix do? Cranes his head right, pulls the backer out of the middle of the field, and throws it to Pitts for a 12-yard gain.
Yep.
To me, that's when you begin, if you want to evaluate development of the quarterback, that's the kind of stuff you got to be looking for, not this superficial stuff that a lot of people that maybe don't study the game look for. Yeah. Those are things that he's growing with. Where are his eyes? How can I manipulate the defense? That's a step in the right direction. I thought that was pretty cool to see that this last weekend.
Good call, Arch.
All right, so guys, let's talk about some adjustments and how that ends up faring for the next opponent, okay, as the Miami Dolphins come to town. And you got a Miami Dolphins team that's coming here that's struggling. They're 1-6 on the season. They have 3 losses, by the way, that were by 25 points, 10 points, and 25 points, okay, so an average of 20 points per game. And they also have 3 losses that were 1-score games. There's been a lot of discussion nationally, or if you want to call it down in South Florida, about the quarterback position. Tua Tagovailoa is facing some heat, that he is throwing a lot of interceptions this year, and Mike McDaniel has said that he's going to get the reps and he's going to start this week, and that his, quote, expectation is that we are not going to throw 10 picks. If you know Mike McDaniel, he's got a little bit of interestingness to him, if you will.
That's an understatement.
So, guys, let's start with the quarterbacks, because you guys are quarterback. And Tua Tagovailoa, he's obviously dealing with some heat right now because of the interceptions. We know in this organization that Kirk Cousins dealt with the same thing last year. Yep. What kind of pressure does that put on the quarterback, DJ? And yes, you have to play with pressure at that position. How much do you listen to it? How much do you completely put it aside?
I think you hear it. It's a day and age where you can't just totally not hear it. I think it's a situation where he's in a position where obviously things are going on internal, and it's starting to seep over into the game. Yep. It's starting to seep over into his play. And I think he wants to play so well, obviously, but the performance is not there. I think he's starting to force things a little bit more. I think he's starting to throw it in the coverage. I think he's his footwork's not all the way there. You see some things in game where, he's drifting a little bit more. Maybe he's supposed to take a 3-step drop and he kind of shifts into a 4-5 and he's moving a little bit closer and he's, forcing the football. And then, obviously, when you're defending comments that you have during the week, it affects from you taking away from your preparation, I believe. And I think that's part of it as well, is he's not also, fighting himself. He's fighting, trying to be something for his teammates as well that maybe you get a little side eye. And it's part of the job is if you said something to the media, which is probably the worst thing you can do as a quarterback, and talk about things that are happening internal, it affects performance once you get on the practice field, you get into games, maybe guys are not going as hard, guys are not going into that third window or second window as hard as they would for you if, things are going the right way. So it's hard to say how he goes about trying to get out of this little slump he's in without, fully knowing what's going on within their offense. But we've seen Tua play really good football. We've seen Tua, be one of those guys that can throw it all over the yard and make plays and be really efficient with the football. And I think over the last few weeks, he's tried to do so much to try to help his team that he's kind of hurt his team throwing the football. And it's been something that's hurt his team. And obviously the last 3 losses haven't been good for him. And, it's unfortunate that you have to go through that as a quarterback when this position already asks so much of you. And then you have to deal with some of the stuff that you create on your own. But you got to find a way to do it because that's the job. Nobody's going to cry for you. And, he's making all that money. Some people will be like, hey, shut up and go play ball.
Arch, in your mind, for the Falcons going into this matchup, do you think more about, the challenges presented by a guy like Devon Achane? Do you think more about, Tua's throwing the ball around, we're going to have some opportunities? Or do you go into this thinking more about, this is a game that we should win because this is a reeling organization right now? What kind of weighs more on your mind?
I think you got to block all of that, the latter part that you talked about, rack out. If you go in thinking, hey, they're struggling, we need to feed, forget about all that. What it's got to boil down to is how well can you execute on both sides of the football and challenge yourself to play your best game, regardless of what the other team's helmet looks like, okay? So I need to, because you look at the numbers, and they're 27th in total offense, they're 26th in total defense, they're last defending the run game, they're 29th and 27th in throwing the football and running the football. All those numbers would lead you to believe, well, what we've been talking about, this is a struggling organization. I don't think you can look at any of that. I think it's got to be a faceless, nameless opponent, and your opponent's yourself. How good can you be? How much more consistent can you be on the offensive and defensive side of the football? You can bet that when Miami puts the tape on and they see how well McCaffrey ran between the tackles, you're going to get a dose of Achane coming downhill. Okay? This is a little tiny offense. When I say little tiny offense, there's a bunch of little tiny guys on this group, 5'7", 5'8", 5'9", and they can all fly. They can all run. So they're going to try to, I would assume that if you got a quarterback struggling, which he has, Tua Tagovailoa, 6 interceptions the last 2 weeks, I want to get the ball to guys in space. They have guys to do that with, whether it's Waddle or whether it's Washington. They got 2 of them, Taj Washington and Malik Washington. Both of them can run. Achane can run. Get them the football, but they're going to give you a steady diet of coming downhill and running the football. And when you flip it on the other side, Shock, you look at what Robert Saleh did, very simple. Saleh was not a man coverage defender. They wanted to play simulated pressures, play matchup zone behind it. They said, forget that. I got 2 young linebackers. I don't think they have enough guys that can beat us in space on the perimeter, so we're going to come after them, run dog through the run to the passer, and we're going to play man coverage on the outside. And they took away some of the opportunities, the quick, easy throws, and limited what Atlanta was able to do. I think you're going to get a copycat scenario that Miami's looking for anything to grasp onto to win the football game. So you throw all that out. What did we do horribly last week? Let's fix that and let's get after people and forget about who the number or the name is on the jersey.
Rack, when you brought up your question, and then Arch, when you answered about just making it a faceless, nameless team over there, this came to mind for me. And I was thinking about you being in this situation, if you're the Dolphins and you're the Falcons, to make it a nameless team makes it – you have to have that. Because I feel like that – forces you to focus on things that you have to get better at, for one. And then on the other side of it, you look at some of the things that they've done over the past few weeks. But then I say, okay, if I'm the Dolphins and I come in here and I have some good things go my way early, I play well, I do some really good things early in the ball game, maybe it takes away from all the stuff that's been happening, and then you start gaining confidence. And then now you're like, oh, this is a totally different team than 1-6 than we thought coming in here. So I think if you make it a nameless, faceless team and we focus on us and make sure we're doing what we're supposed to, guess what? All that doesn't matter. And I was looking up some of the numbers for the last few ball games when Archie was talking about it. You look at the Panthers game, they rushed for 19 yards. We talk about situations and moments in the game. For the Panthers, rushed for 19 yards and gave up 239 yards rushing that game. Versus the Browns, they were 1 for 13 on third down. We talk about the game, the moments in the game that matter, and 4 turnovers. What's the Chargers? They gave up 140 rush yards. You're talking about big moments in games that matter, that change how the outcome of a game comes about. I think it's a big deal. So coming down to making it a nameless, faceless team and focus on the things that hurt you in the previous games, I think matters a little bit more than worrying about who's that opponent on the other side. Because you start focusing so much on what they do, it takes away from the things that you have to do better to get ready for that ball game.
In you guys' experience, Rack, I'll ask you this. When you've got a young team, we've got a young group of guys, especially your playmaking type players, especially on the offensive side of the football. Does this game become more difficult to prepare for mentally because of what you just talked about, all the things that are going on in South Florida and all the things they're dealing with, and you just came off 2 really good, really tough 2 games against teams that are supposed to be competing for it all? How much does that make it more difficult to prepare to get ready for this one?
I don't think so, because to your point, like, I think this has to go back to think about what do we do really well. What does Atlanta do really well, right? It's getting Bijan in space. It's finding touches for Drake and Kyle Pitts in the passing game, and it's leaning on this offensive line to run the football, okay? If you get back to those things that they're really good at and allow these guys to play fast, to play confident, to play worry-free, you don't think about what's going on over there. Because obviously Tua throwing interceptions has nothing to do with Michael Penix, Bijan Robinson, and Kyle Pitts. It has nothing to do with them. They're not facing each other, right? Now, that's for the defense. Atlanta Falcons defense can go out there and try to take the ball away, but they have to think about how do we execute better offensively, right? I wrote down 2 words for this week is scheme and execution, right? Mm-hmm. You got to find the right plays that are going to put your players in position to win, and then once you're there, you got to make the throw and you got to make the catch. You got to make the block and you got to make the cut, whatever that is, right? So it's 2 things to me that are really simple. It's you have the right scheme and do you execute that scheme? So this is to me just focusing on the guys like, hey, this is going to be the game plan. Now we got to go out and execute it. Take all the reps, all the experience that you've seen throughout the course of the season, and then react and go play fast.
You don't, for me, I ask the question, you should not even have the mindset of being in what that team looks like because you already had one this year.
Yeah.
You've already had a stinker this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you walked, not saying they did this, but I'm saying you walked into a game where a team was having issues, hadn't won a game, hadn't played well, and you didn't play your best ball game.
You got ran out the
So coming into this game, you already had that issue. You already had that. So there's no reason you should even have the mindset of, oh, they're just 1-6.
Yeah.
That shouldn't matter.
Exactly.
The way they play shouldn't matter because you've already went into a situation where you had something like that and you had to reevaluate a lot of things the next week.
Well, and this might be even more of a litmus test for where this team is mentally, culturally, if you want to, than maybe even the Buffalo and the 49er game. You knew that, hey, Buffalo's good. Hey, you knew the 49ers are good.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go to your college mindset and you're Georgia and all of a sudden here comes North Texas State, you're thinking, okay, well, our third guys are going to be playing by the third quarter.
Yeah.
That's not the way it is in this league.
Right.
And I'm not suggesting that our guys still have that college mindset, but you did just come off of 2 primetime games. One, you did a good job. One, you didn't. And here comes a Miami team that's struggling. If you're looking at the new, to you guys' points, if you're paying any attention outside your own building, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yep.
This might be even more of a litmus test for this team and where they are.
Hey, listen, that team is built with pros too, and guess what they're thinking in South Florida?
Yeah.
We're desperate for a win.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're thinking about. Like, we're desperate for a win this week.
We got nothing to lose. Let's go play.
Much like this Atlanta Falcons organization saying, we got to go win this game. Couple of things that came to my mind in this one. I want to talk about our 3-word key to the game and give you guys a little second to think about that. I'll start, and this is going to be our key to the game, but you got to use 3 words. You gave me a compliment earlier about 3 words.
Yeah, you
Those
did
don't
good.
work
You
on
did
this
good.
one.
It was
It's
money,
a different
too.
game.
It
Okay,
was money.
But for my key, 3 words for this game is going to be take the rock. And I am going to say that because they've been struggling in the turnover department, go get the ball. Go get the ball.
Yeah.
Miami comes in here -6 in the turnover margin. They're 30th in the NFL.
Man.
Make it worse, right?
Yeah.
Make it hurt a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's so much talk about, okay, well, Billy Bowman's out and Jalen Walker's out, and we don't know what the status is with a couple of other players. Here's what I'll say in the National Football League, and you can look around the league. You can look at San Francisco last week. They were beat up. They played well.
Yeah.
You can look at the other game on Monday night, Detroit Lions. They're all beat up in the secondary. How are they going to compete in that game against Baker Mayfield? Well, they forgot they got some pretty good dudes on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
The NFL is all about who is the next guys that step up, right? Who knows who is not going to play for the Atlanta Falcons in this game? It doesn't matter. But if you're on defense, go out there and take the rock. Shock, you're up. 3 words.
Take the rock. I like it. What do you got?
I got win the routine.
Win the routine. Okay, you got to explain that one a little bit more.
No,
Yeah.
it's
I'm confused.
confused. I love that. I love when you're confused. That means it's not as simple as you think.
There's always depth to what you say. Are you kidding me? Come on.
I'm a deep guy.
Yeah.
I'm a deep guy. Yeah, I'm a deep guy. But you think about some of the things that happened last ball game. You said the 2 words you mentioned was execution.
Yeah.
To execute, you got to do the routine things to win ball games. You got to block, you got to tackle, you got to be more physical. You got to make sure, hey, if you're supposed to be at a proper depth, you get there. If you're supposed to be in this gap, win the routine. We mentioned about what's going on their side of the ball and all the stuff that's going on. If you do the routines, I think this team is talented enough that if they do the routine things well, they can win a bunch of ball games.
I got it, by the way. It's the little things. Do the little things. That's what. But he just
changed the words too. A lot of people don't use routine. That's a good call.
That's next level right there.
I appreciate that.
Next level. I like that.
So
Put yourself down for $3. That was pretty good. Even though we're not supposed to do that kind of stuff.
All right, Arch, you're up.
Arch, let's go.
All right, so I was thinking about trying to get a little catchy. Go get you some. No. That was kind of more like what you said. All about us.
Yeah.
I thought that kind of encapsulated everything that all the 3 of us have been saying.
I like that.
Is, the whole nameless, faceless opponent. There's another one. But it is. It's about what you internalize, what you think you can do, better yourself, and then go get it done. Offensive linemen, nothing hurts an offense. We talked about this after the Tampa game. Remember the Tampa game where there was a conversation about how the offensive line got pushed around physically. Mm-hmm. You knew they would answer the call because that's who Dwayne Ledford is, their offensive line coach. That's who Jake Matthews is, and they did. They rallied, and you put it on the Vikings. Yeah. This is another one of those where I feel like that if you go back and look at the tape, not only is the offensive line not going to look what they saw, I don't think the defensive line likes what they saw either. Yeah. And there was conversation about how they got pushed around physically in this game. I would expect those guys to rally up. So, and it's about them coming together as that unit and doubling down again and go and find themselves. So all about us.
Like it.
Wasn't quite as deep as
all right, there we go. We had win the routine, all about us.
I got one more thing.
Take the rock. Go ahead.
Arch, you know a guy named Lance? Have you ever met Lance before?
Lance.
You just met a guy named Lance.
Lance Allworth?
No, just you know a Lance.
Lance? I don't know who you're talking about. Lance.
There was a tight end back in 2001 who caught a pass. It was a touchdown versus the Miami Dolphins.
Oh.
His name was Lance.
Lance.
And the guy, he sits right next to you.
Lance.
It's like, where is he going with this?
Yeah. Okay, so the backstory is we got a question. Had any of us caught a touchdown pass? And, of course, Shock and I aren't normally going out on, so we're kind of normally throwing it. But this guy over here did go out for passes and did it at Minnesota, which he doesn't care anything about. Doesn't care anything about the
tight end in college, yeah.
But he played tight end here as well as being one of the great deep snappers in the league during his time. Tell us about the touchdown. One touchdown.
Come on.
All right, so it was actually in South Florida. It wasn't here at home. Yeah. But this was Michael Vick's, I believe it was his second year, because People thought originally that I caught his very first touchdown pass, but that was not true. I caught his second touchdown pass. But early on in my career, I played in short yardage and goal line situations if needed, right? We got somebody banged up or something, I would be that third tight end.
Let's go, Rat.
And so when we played in, we had 23 personnel, right? 2 backs, 3 tight ends, I would come in. And so we had that situation. I can't remember who was banged up that game. It might have been Reggie Kelly. I can't remember. It might have been Kozlowski. Anyway, so I came in, and we were down on the goal line, and we were in 23 personnel. Rewind a little bit. We ran it earlier in the game.
Set it up.
And I went to the backside, right? And so we were trying to scheme it up to where Algie Crumpler would come across the formation. He would be the one
them try to get Algie
that would be open. How dare? I mean, the Pro Bowl tight end, right?
Only got 500 balls here.
So I don't know why. The next time we get down in 23 personnel, I had the bright ideas. I went up to Crump right when we came on the field, and I was like, dude, they're not going to be expecting me. Let's switch. I don't know why I thought I had a better idea than Dan Reeves in that situation. So we did it. So we flipped sides, and it was just kind of like one of those 3 different layer crossing patterns, right? And so I end up coming off the ball, and I'm going to be the mid guy going to the left side of the formation, right? So going towards the direction Michael Vick is going to roll as a left-handed quarterback. Well, I ended up getting knocked down at the line of scrimmage, I believe, by Jason Taylor, which I'm okay with that, by the way. He's a pretty good player.
Sure.
Part of the
but
Not really good for your quarterback, but go ahead.
No, but Mike was pretty good at extending plays. Would we all agree with that?
He got there. He got there, Arch. He got there.
So I get up and I fight across the formation, and I end up finding a seam, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm open. And I'm thinking all of this in slow motion. And then I see Mike throw me the football, and I think I was also thinking, don't drop it. So I end up and I catch the ball right kind of like by the back pylon, and I end up kind of running into
hand catch.
Hand catch. It was a hands catch. No gloves, nothing, right? Oh, all natural. And this is kind of the funniest part of the story is I'm going back to, remember, I can't just go celebrate. I got to snap the extra point. I'm the team's long snapper. So 2 things. I'm looking for somebody to give the football to take it back to the sideline, right? I wanted to keep the football. It was my first NFL touchdown. Ended up being my only NFL touchdown. And after I passed the ball to Algie to go to the sideline, Zach Thomas comes up to me. Okay, the longtime Miami Dolphins linebacker,
54.
and he goes, "Where did you come from?" had to keep that word out of it, right? And so I just kind of smiled as him. I wasn't going to talk trash to Zach Thomas, but he completely lost me in coverage. I found an opening and I caught it for a touchdown.
Well, I mean, the part that dawns on me here is Rack ultimately gets into another line of work now, and he's taking care of people financially and all this kind of stuff now. How about the offensive coordinator in you? You switched up, made Crump, made Posaines Crump.
Well, how let's switch. Pro Bowl tight end, and I was like, let me put you on the backside and be a decoy.
Crump was definitely side-eyed after that. He's like, that should have been mine. That should have been mine. Hey, did you dance? Did you have any end zone dance? No celebration?
Nothing. My celebration was, who can I give this football back to take it to the sideline?
One, at least he remembered to get the ball, because a lot of guys will just throw it in the stand. Wait,
can I have that?
Take the ball to the sideline. And then 2, he wasn't so overjoyed with what he just done that he's over on the sideline high-fiving guys when he's supposed to be snapping for the extra point.
Did you
he realized he had to go get it. Good snap.
Yes, so it was.
That's a very cerebral guy. Called the play, made the grab, and then got the deep snap for the kick. Unbelievable.
Lance for 6.
Oh,
I love
goodness.
it.
All right, so
Art, you should have seen the undeniable, just what is Shock saying right now. Who is Lance? When I said, do you know Lance? The look in your eyes was like, Shock, what the?
Yeah, well, it turns out so did he, and you were talking about him.
No, he knew who Lance was. He knew who Lance was.
Lance is my dad's name. It's my middle name. Yeah. After we got into this discussion about his government
Lance
name, which I still have to do my due diligence on DJ here. I'm coming back with that because he brought the Lance out on the show. All right, that's going to wrap it up here at Falcons Audible, presented by AT&T. I'm Lance, by the way. No, I'm not. That's my middle name. That's DJ Shockley, Dave Archer, Derek Rackley. Falcons will be back in action at home this weekend at the Benz against the Miami Dolphins, looking to bounce back and get a win. Be sure to join us next week right here. We'll wrap it all up for you at the same time, same place. Well, what does that mean? It's a podcast. That means you get it whenever you want it. Take care, everybody. Take care.